Welcome back to another week of Honey from the Word. Today's devotion is titled The Trouble with Us is Me. Comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 14 and 15. For the love of Christ compels us, because we judge thus, that if one died for all, then all died. And he died for all, that those who live should live no longer for themselves, but for him who died for them and rose again. One of the greatest things that hinders a relationship between a man and a woman is a thing called selfishness. Selfishness is being more concerned about my welfare and interests. It is me and nobody else. It is when I come first. Selfishness is the greatest single enemy of a happy marriage. Selfishness is the root of all other sins. When I am at the center of my world, I am out of place, and my world is out of balance. Selfishness is when the husband and the wife are trying to decide on a certain item to buy. The husband wants one thing and the wife another. Then the wife gives that pitiful look, and the husband gives in. Selfishness is seen when the husband had rather spend time watching sports or doing something he likes instead of spending time with his wife. Wanting what you want and wanting your way is a natural thing. We live in a society that tells us to look after number one, and we carry that with us throughout life, even when we get married. Somehow we forget that when we are joined in matrimony, we become one, no longer two. We repeat the vow in the wedding ceremony, but really haven't taken time to see what it really means. I don't know that I've ever seen many people admit or confess selfishness. We try to keep it covered up like a worn spot in the carpet. Have you ever noticed that selfish people are always insisting on their rights? Your rights are important, but in a marriage, your rights have to die. You can't always get your way in a marriage. Sometimes you have to give instead of get. Sometimes you have to compromise instead of insisting on your rights. I must die to live. As Christ died to fulfill God's purpose, I must die to fulfill Christ's purpose for me. According to our text in 2 Corinthians, this death is not my loss, it's my victory. His power enables me to triumph over desires of the flesh. I am no longer enslaved. I am free, alive, and victorious. Before we were saved, we were slaves of Satan, John 8 and 34. And as slaves, we didn't have rights. The only person that could free us was Jesus. When I accepted his blood to cover my sins, I became free. There are many here today who are slaves to self. Instead of God being on the throne, self is, or self is trying to share the throne of our lives with Jesus, and that doesn't work out. Many are serving self and not God. The reason we have so many problems in marriages is because instead of serving God and our mate, we are too busy trying to serve self, trying to satisfy self regardless of what pleases God or our mate. See, when I became a Christian, I needed and must surrender my rights to the Lord. I must surrender my will to the Lord's will. And when I got married, I surrendered my rights to my mate. And it isn't just what I want anymore, but what is it that my mate wants? The reason we have so much trouble in marriage is because many have not surrendered to the Lordship of Jesus Christ. When we do, we have no problem putting our mate ahead of us. John said he must increase, but I must decrease. John 3 and 30. The Amplified Version puts it this way: he must become greater and greater, and I must become less and less. To be a husband or wife according to God's plan means servanthood. What was true for Jesus and his disciples is true for the husband and wife. Ephesians 5:21 through 23. Why my way will not work? My way clouds judgment. As King Saul went to battle the Amalekites, he was instructed by God's prophet Samuel to utterly destroy all that they have, man and woman, ox and sheep, camel and ass, according to 1 Samuel 15:3. But Saul used his own judgment and returned from the battle with a huge surplus of loot. Self dominated the mind of Saul and clouded his judgment, perhaps even his memory. My way is never satisfied. Selfishness is never satisfied. The more it gets, the more it wants. King Solomon began his reign as a man of God, full of wisdom and splendor. Unfortunately, he watered down his faithfulness to God with self-serving allegiances, many wives and concubines, gold and riches, much of which came from heavy taxation of his people. Toward the end of his life, Solomon looked back on his accumulated wealth and said, "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." Ecclesiastes 1, 2, and 3. He had quenched every physical appetite, but it was all in vain. Selfishness never satisfies until it completely consumes us. My way doesn't pay. It cost. King David allowed his lust for a woman to lead him to adultery. His cover-up tactics didn't work, so he killed her innocent husband, 2 Samuel 11. David later repented of this sin that was ever before him, Psalms 51. But the effect of his sin spread to his children and the whole nation of Israel. Anyone who remains very close to a self-centered person will have to bear some of the consequences of his actions, even though they are innocent. This can be seen in a family where the wife and children pay the price for the husband's reputation of adultery and bad debts. My way doesn't work in the long run. The young prodigal son in Luke 15:11 through 24 was short-sighted. He didn't investigate the results of his self-indulgence. Only the body comes to an end when a person dies, and it will be resurrected in the judgment day. My way gets in God's way. Often what I think is a stepping stone is a stumbling block in God's view. Moses wanted to deliver the Israelites prematurely, but it didn't work. He became angry, disillusioned, and uncooperative, even when God told him it was the proper time to deliver Israel in Exodus 3 and 4. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way to death. Proverbs 14 and 12. My way allows no freedom. My way is undisciplined. It's a long line of urges, wants, and desires. Selfishness is not found around freedom. Undisciplined people follow the path of least resistance. The person who does only what he wants never completes difficult jobs. He's always behind and in debt. Freedom comes through self-denial. No person is free from financial troubles if he uses charge cards unwisely. God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but a spirit of power and love and self-control. 2 Timothy 1 and 7. My way causes dissension. Self-seekers are just that, seekers. Their attitude is me first. The Corinthian church was a quarreling family. 1 Corinthians 1:4. Men were making names for themselves, not for God. They were puffed up and full of pride. James sums it up. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder and every vile practice. James 3:16 from the NIV. My way separates me from God. There is room only for one throne in my heart. It will be occupied by God or self. When I enthrone myself, I dethrone God. No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Matthew 6:24 from the NIV. Selfishness and immaturity can destroy a home. Before there can be a permanent cure for this problem, the individuals in the home must first be examined. I must get the selfish part of me out of the way so that we can grow. So this week, work on this thing called selfishness, dethroning the self and putting God back on the throne alone where he deserves to be. May God bless you this week.